Are you a parent who complains about your child's behavior? Do you know that this could be a reflection of you? This is why I'm joined by Professor Lusajo Kajula, an expert in health, behavior, and psychology for adolescents and families. Professor Lusajo Kajula has also done a research, among many research, titled Mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka. Literally translates to the child of the snake is the snake. That means as parents, as guardians, we reap what we sow. Karibu, Professor.
Asante sana.
Professor, what is it that you really do and why does it matter?
I'm the executive director of an organization known as Empathia Africa, Empathia for Empathy. So we do research. I also personally, my background is psychology. I'm a health psychologist. So I also see patients, nowadays not as much as I used to. And then I also do workshops on mental health issues, youth health, and health behavior in terms of health promotion. So health promotion focuses on preventing mental illnesses or ill health behaviors that could put somebody at risk of getting a mental illness or other illnesses that can happen due to our behavior.
I've read one of your papers, or rather research papers, and it is Mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka. Literally translates to the child of a snake is a snake. Mm-hmm. And it's a very thought-provoking, I would say, research, and it's very insightful. What inspired that paper and what does it really entail?
Unfortunately, because of human nature, the world will never be perfect, much as we wish. So every one of us is trying their, in their corner of the world to do things to make things slightly better. Oh, yeah. So we were of an idea to reduce gender-based violence, specifically intimate partner violence. That's when a partner, a boyfriend, a husband harms, their partner. And of course, majority of the perpetrators, people who perpetrate violence, are men. Who, women also do. I know there are always people who say, what about women? But it's majority men are the perpetrators. And most of the interventions and research is done on women. So my friend and colleague Suzanne, a man, she's a professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and also Jessie Mbwambo, another colleague at Muhimbili. She retired last year, but she's a big researcher also, and also on the gender-based violence, But then it was, okay, if we keep focusing on women, but we know men are the majority perpetrators, how do we reduce the violence? Because then you wait for the woman to be abused and then you help them. How can we stop this? Nip it at the bud, as they say, And we know a human being can change their behavior before they mature. It's so hard for grown men to change. And human brain stops growing after 25. So if you're under 25, your brain is still growing. So there is room to change. So we said, let's focus on 15 to 24-year-old boys. And we went to the most low-income areas of Dar es Salaam. And then we found, there are things known as camp. So then we found, the camps. It's a venue where they hang. This name we didn't give. The young men themselves call themselves camp. Okay. You would see they're going to the beach sometimes, and it's called, Al-Qaeda camp. Okay. Al-Qaeda is a real name. So we found, actually, our research found that these camps has been in existence. The youngest camp was 8 years old then. Wow. There's been in existence for long, and they have leadership, they have constitutions, they are very formalized. We were impressed, So we listed about 80 camps, and we trained them on health, sexual health, taught them about, condom use. We would give them boxes of condoms, but also about gender and violence. Okay. So that's how we published the Mtoto wa Nyoka ni Nyoka, among other papers. But also one of the angles we were studying is something known as adverse childhood events, or ACEs, which are difficult things, traumatic things that happen to a child, which shape their personality, you know, the type of adult that they become.
What could those things be like? Like, what are the examples?
So adverse, it could be parents' death, it could be violence at home, parents fighting between themselves, parents, you know, abusing the child, other just abusive things. It could be being abused in school, but just going through traumatic events.
Would you mind giving us a few examples of what traumatic events you observed in your research?
So, for example, one of the young men, his parents divorced, and then he was taken to live with relatives, who then he was abused when he was living with his relatives. So that his parents divorce, and also what he experienced, is one of adverse childhood event. So things like that. And then we found most of, as also research shows elsewhere in the world, most people who experience ACEs, adverse childhood events, would also most potentially be abusive to their partner and to their children. So a child who grows up in a very healthy home, positive, very loving, would hardly, unlikely be violent. So the point of Mtoto wa Nyoka ni Nyoka is, as we say in Swahili, unachopanda ndio utakachovuna. Whatever you plant in a child is what they will become. So that's the point of this paper. We have to learn from people who have, you know, grown up in adversity, you know, to stop the violence has to start somewhere.
What are other findings that you discovered through this research, and how can we break the cycle, really?
What they shared with us was that sometimes there would be gang rape, and they would tell you without shame. They just say, yeah, a girl was drunk and we raped, tungo. But then after training, these boys we trained were the ones telling their friends, no, that's very dangerous, that's unhealthy, don't do that.
And did you find anything that has to do with childhood attachment with guardians and parents? Did it have to play a role in any of the behaviors of their parents and their behaviors later on in life as well? So
parenting, I would say first, parenting is about 2 dimensions. Responsiveness, being warm, you know, to your child. So, for example, I'm Nyakyusa. I'll only give listeners, I'll give this example only because of my tribe. So the Nyakyusa, and I know some people, but we are huggers. We hug a lot.
Oh, I know Nyakyusas, they do hug
yes,
a lot. Yeah.
Like when we meet, and it's not like once a year, we are, you know, we hug a lot.
I used to think hugging is a Western thing until when I met Nyakyusas.
Oh yes, we hug a lot. So if I haven't seen someone, I can hug as I'm greeting them, and then just keep hugging them. And some people do not hug, do not touch. You know, I'm married from somebody from the coast region, and I hug you know, they're used to me hugging them, but I hardly see them hugging. And it's when they visit my family, and you know, they're used to it, but between each other, you don't see it.
I'm not saying they are warm. They have a different way of expressing themselves.
Exactly. I'm not saying they are not warm, but I want people to understand all the endearment words we use with our children. You know, you can use some words to tell your child that the child is loved. And I learned this from a patient, actually. I had this young girl, she was 12, I think. And she just walked in and said, I need to see you, a psychologist, and when I was at Muhimbili. And then she told me one of the things, she was very, you know, she had symptoms of depression. She was very sad. And she told me, my parents don't love me. She had evidence, and the evidence was, you know, when I was an only child, my mother would call me mwanangu, mwanangu. And then after my brother was born, my mother never called me mwanangu. She just called me by my name. For me, it seems like for children, saying mwanangu is like sort of saying darling. It's like an endearment word. So you can also show a child that this is warmth, you know, when you are responsive. When a child cries or they are sad and the parent responds, you pat them, you know, you give them assurance. Just being responsive, responding to your child. But also the second dimension is what we call control, you know, giving rules, which is good. Children need rules, but some parents is all about rules and no warmth. So a child thrives when they have to. Actually, children need rules. This is the time we eat, this is the time we do this thing we put here. They feel better because they know. Sometimes the child is abused and they're told this is wrong, but nobody told them it was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, but if they know the rules and they can play within the rules, and when they breach the rules, they know what happens if you breach the rules. But a good parent is when you balance. The children experiences warmth, so they know they are loved, they are assured, and then they know, I know the rules. If I breach the rules, this is what happened. But a child who does not experience warmth, you know, will also be not, you know, you are talking about attachment. So there is then lack of attachment because you're not close to your parent. You don't feel close.
How can I know that I'm warm to my child?
So how do you respond to your child? Because I said it's about responsiveness. Then that's why I want to talk about the types. Because when you are attentive and also a bit of control, then we call it authoritative. It is the best type of parenting, and their children grow up to be very self-assured, high self-esteem, confident. You know, as we are here, we are talking, you know, all these, when you know you are loved, you're not worried about that, you live in a healthy home. By healthy, I mean, even if parents disagree, you don't see hate, you don't see them abusing each other, beating each other, you know. So they know, okay, you can disagree and also discuss, you know, you communicate. When you do something wrong, you are asked and given a chance to explain, you know. So this is how you know. So if a parent does, you know, these actions that show you are responding to your child, not dismissing your child. When they tell you, I feel this way, I am sad, and you say, that's nothing, you know, this whatever, just dismissing them, then they don't feel the warmth, you know. And then there's the parents who are neglectful. They're just not there.
Physically and emotionally? Or
yeah. So a child may be given food and sleep somewhere clean, but the parent is almost not there.
Absent.
Yeah. You know, just...
Can be in the house, but not paying attention.
You're not there. So your child does not know you, and they do not feel you know them. So it's a type of neglect. It's the emotional neglect. Because when I'm talking about warmth, you know, responsiveness, it's emotional feeding of the child. You do not only give them food, you also feed their emotions with positivity and acceptance, you know. And then there's a type that's dismissive, you know. A child is like, you are spoken to, do not talk to me, I will talk to you. So this child will never learn to communicate because they are not used to. That is
dismissive.
You know, but then there's also permissive parenting, where everything goes. So it's only warmth without control. The house has no rules.
And is that what we call spoiling?
Yes. You know, it's spoiling, you know, but we call it neglectful because also it's like, well, somebody has to be the adult.
Yeah.
You know, I see sometimes parents like a child will be sitting in the front seat, and you know it's dangerous. I know some people do not know it's dangerous. It could be on the mother's lap. And you know, if a car stops suddenly, it's the child who you know, and then you tell them, oh, you know, and they're like, well, the child insisted.
Oh yes,
and
I've seen that a lot.
Say no. So it's actually you are spoiling, but there's no rules.
There's no rules.
You know, the child, whatever you want. Permissive. Everything is permitted, you know. So these children will grow up to be adults that they do not know the word no. So if you say no, they get angry with you because why are you saying no? You should give it to them because they were parented like that. Have you experienced when you are dating, maybe you're learning to date, and then you say no to a boy and they beat you?
Yeah, I've not experienced such violence, but I've experienced people not accepting a no or not understanding what a no really means. Yeah. Because
they experience permissive type of parenting. And that's why research has shown that those who with control and warmth are the best performing as adults. And performing, I'm talking work-wise, I'm talking relationships. You know, they can negotiate, they can learn, oh, okay, I did a mistake here, I need to, you know, take accountability, I need to apologize, I need to correct myself. You know how there's some people would refer to a Bible verse, I don't not remember it now, but that a parent may wish their child to be the head, you know, as a blessing. You'll be the head and not the tail. But then you have to plant for your child to be the head.
But if you are a tail as a parent, now that's where we go back to breaking the circle.
Yes.
How can a tail parent raise a head child?
So you have to be a conscious parent. We call it conscious parenting. That means being aware of every movement you make. Recently, I was talking to somebody who hits their children. If they didn't do homework, they are beaten. So I do not believe in physical punishment. And I know I will get hit because of this, because there are people who are believers.
I also don't believe
in saying, and they say, do not spare the rod as it was in the Bible. And I always ask, is the rod a piece of wood? Or for me, the rod is rules. And if you break rules, then there's consequences. As adults, for example, if you break a traffic rule, does the police beat you up?
No, they don't.
You get consequences, like you pay a fine. So you can also make your children have consequences that are not physically harmful. Because beating has shown in research to have the least benefits. Because it doesn't make the child think of their mistake. They now start thinking about you. Oh, my mother is so harsh. She's so, she's this, she's mean, she beat me. But you want your child to reflect on the mistake they did. And for reflecting, you give them, you take away things they like. You know, if they like to do something, you know, because you did it, first you have to discuss. And you have to learn, why did they do that? Because first, nobody never makes a mistake. We all make mistakes. But you have to help your child navigate. First, if you make a mistake, there will be consequences. Because even in life, if you are driving and you're on your phone, maybe you get an accident. That's a consequence.
I saw in Mtoto wa Nyoka ni Nyoka this aspect of beating. There is this one guy who explained about being beaten, and he explained a soft way of the way his mother beat him, and he said it was just a gentle beating, while his uncle was beating him like he was beating a snake. To him, the way his uncle was beating him was bad, but the way his mother was beating him, he sort of like understood it. How are we normalizing corporal punishment to children?
So because you mentioned, that's a very good one. It's normalization. I'm sorry to say, but I think it's lazy parenting, because actually beating is fast. It's so easy.
Yeah.
You know, you hit and you leave. But, you know, giving consequences, maybe if you are, you know, if you have, say, tomorrow is a public holiday, and usually you would go to the beach. If somebody did a mistake, and maybe not the first time, I also believe in teaching children forgiveness. You know, they explain, they did this, do they realize it was a mistake? And it's the first time. I believe in showing them grace, teaching them grace, that you can forgive. So then they repeat. And then you say, what happened? Tell me. Oh, you know, I did this. And the third time, no, now there's a consequence. Because so obviously you are not learning. But if tomorrow, say they did that this week, and also it doesn't have to be immediately, you know? So tomorrow is a holiday. Oh, because you did that, maybe you didn't do your homework. We've been telling you, you are not doing. Tomorrow everybody is going to the beach, but because you didn't do your homework, you will stay home to do your homework. I'm telling you, that child will not thinking mama is mean. They'll be thinking, if I did my homework, I'll also be at the beach.
Yeah.
So that you can teach people. So people normalize, because, okay, it wasn't so harsh, but what did you learn? Consequences have to teach. If there's no teaching, what's the point? It has to teach. A person has to learn not to do that again.
But an absent parent will not, maybe, do they all of them know that they are absent? Maybe they don't know that they are absent parents.
I think they know.
You think they do?
Yeah, because your child feels like a stranger. They do something, why did you do this? Why are you doing that? You have no idea about your child, who your child is, you know. But usually, of course, people will say, oh, I'm so busy. Being a conscious parent, positive parent, attentive, being there is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. So for some people, it's easy to be lazy, not do so much. Minimum, you know, you just do the bare minimum. They're eating, they're sleeping, and some parents will go far to say, well, actually, they're sleeping on a mattress. I slept on a mat. I didn't have a mattress. Oh, they have a TV. They have a soft life, you know, and just provide things, but not yourself.
Negative positivity.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But children you have to be there. They have to get the positive energy. They have to know they are important to their parents, and important beyond getting things.
What I understand from you also is that you have to understand at their level, yes, why they reason the way they reason, why they think the way they think. And if you don't understand, because it takes a lot of work, then you're going two different directions.
Yes, and you can't help them. So you can only help them navigate through life to become healthy adults by knowing your child. And you know your child through communication, and I mean communication, not talking. Because sometimes parents just give a lot of lectures. If you give a lot of lectures, you don't listen to your child, then your child would not learn any, because they have questions like, oh, but why is that? For example, there's another research that my colleague Prof. Akaya and I did 2008 to 2012 for 4 years with 12 to 14-year-old children in primary school. And one girl I interviewed, she told me that, you know, my mother, after she reached adolescence, she started getting a period. Then she said, my mother told me, now you are a woman. You know, she was 13. But the mother told her, now you are a woman. If you sleep with a man, you will get HIV and you will die.
Actually, it happens to most ladies.
And then this girl, I told her, but what questions do you have? She said, you know, I can't ask my mother because I know she will say, I've started bad behavior, but I'm very curious. So mama sleeps with Baba every day. Do they have AIDS?
Mm-hmm.
Because she told her, if you sleep with a man, then, you know. So this is what happens when you just talk and you don't communicate. But you have to listen to your child, you know, listen to them, give them a chance to ask you things, you know, so that, and also learn if they do a mistake, why did they do that? If they have a friend, oh, why is so-and-so your friend? What do you like about them? If they stop being friends, oh, why did you stop? Because then maybe, she didn't talk to me and I stopped talking to them. But then you need to teach them to communicate. Maybe you can ask them what happened. This is how they learn. Otherwise, they'll be adults, be in a relationship, and just if something is wrong, they don't talk. And then nothing is solved.
Yeah, yeah, that is very true, actually. Reflecting back, I'm recollecting chats in one of the group of girls whereby people are giving their experiences, and quite a few really shared their experiences of being threatened to that extent, and it has really affected their relationships yes. in life, because to them intimate relationships equate to danger. HIV, AIDS, danger. It really impacted them. So it's good that you gave that example.
That study also, there was a girl whose mother was testing for her virginity every few months. Like the mother inserts her finger and look at her, which is very invasive, disrespectful, you know, but no communication, just have you started doing bad things? And then I'm testing you, you know. So yeah, that's why I'm saying parenting is very important. So girls, for example, we are warned a lot. My parents didn't warn me about men are bad, you know. Just put your studies first. But yeah, not much communication as well, although my parents are educated. But then it will be so much warning about men, and men are bad and you'll get HIV. And then this girl goes to high school, to university. She's still afraid of men. She's not dating. And then the parents are like, when are you going to get married?
When are you going to get married?
Well, you know, I'm scared of men because apparently men are bad people, you know. So when did they stop being bad? So that's the importance of communication, because you have to specify, this is the danger with early pregnancy, with this. You also have to navigate your HIV risk as well. So you have to positively parent and be present and communicate with your child. Communication is another, other than nurturing this positivity I'm talking about. Communication is the second most important bit that we can help adolescents and young people to learn.
Looking at these different parenting styles, we assume that both parents are there. But we have different scenarios in the today world of parenting. What is the role of a father and the role of a mother in marriage, in raising kids, and how does that impact kids? Especially looking at this narrative of daddy's girl, mommy's boy. Is that just a narrative, or there is some scientific truth to it that boy-child relate more with mother?
I will start with something that keeps happening with media, with people just, that's single mother, that's single mother. So it's not an insult, you know. We shouldn't force women to be with partners or husbands when there is danger. Sometimes there is danger. People do not just divorce because they feel like it. Something is not working. And sometimes there may be both parents, but it's so unhealthy. Since we started, I've been talking about this healthy home. Because sometimes homes are unhealthy. There could be danger. We've seen even in news, women are murdered by their husbands. And you know, how do the children feel? Imagine being present, hearing the threats, listening to the threats. So sometimes you can actually save your children's lives, not only physically, but also emotionally, by moving away. So sometimes it could be the best thing, divorce could be the best thing that could happen to children.
To break the cycle again.
It could be, because sometimes it's like, single mother, you know. Sometimes they're saving themselves and their children. So there's no need, single father. And some of them, the mother of the father passed away. So them hearing this thing as if it's it's an insult, is really not healthy. I'm not saying you say, but you've heard it too.
Yes, I have.
But when all things are good, I think economists say, ceteris paribus, when everything is good, then it's best to have both parents. Because then first there's shared, responsibilities. Being one parent is quite a lot of work, and especially if you want to parent well, it's a lot of work. Luckily, as Africans, there's quite a bit of support, But so the role of father, when children are young, research has shown that fathers who play with their children, be it football, whatever, but playing with the children builds a child's self-esteem. This is a sense of how you show love and how you show warmth. And the mother's role is to nurture. So a mother can play with their children, but it's not as impactful as when they nurture their children. And the fathers can nurture their children, but it's not as impactful as when they play with their children, when they are young. Until, early adolescence, just when that time when children are very needy. Because when children reach adolescence, it's very normal they start to detach from us. Then their peers are the most important, I remember our father used to joke, we loved, boys would be outside, but my sister and we grew up with my aunt loved to stay in the room. And our father would come and say, "What are you doing? Are you breastfeeding your dolls?" Like, what? He would be so annoyed. "Why are you always in your room?" And I'm sure parents who are listening, and if you have teenage or adolescent children, they love their own space. It's either their space or their friends. You become least important, because now your time to be the most important person is lessening. Of course, nature is preparing them to move away. If they are always with you, then how will they go and work and, be mature? So the second stage is when their friends are most important. And that the first important, the initial step before adolescence is important for parents to nurture and to teach them to communicate, for preparing for the second stage. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you don't communicate, you don't respond to their question, you don't show them warmth, they don't feel loved, that's when they start, some of them start experimenting with maybe sex or other risky behaviors because they are seeking for that acceptance. And then their friends, you don't know the influence their friends have, they could pass on to your children. So children who are self-confident, high self-esteem, they are assured of love, hardly fall into that. They can always actually sometimes come and ask, so-and-so is telling me this, what do you think? So when both parents are there, then also the father offers security. That's why the mother is just warmth and just, the father is just that steadiness. Okay, hopefully nothing bad will happen, Baba is here. Hopefully this is a present father, not that father who comes after 2 days, then shows up 1 hour, leaves, but this is a present father.
What does it mean to be a present father for someone who doesn't understand?
So you're there, sometimes people come, like from the office, they go to the bar, they come home, children are sleeping. You leave when your children are asleep or they've left for school. On the weekend, it's like, hi, shikamo, and then you leave. Sometimes you go and play football. You go and watch football, hang at the bar, come back at night. Like, your children hardly see you. So they navigate through life without your presence, your energy, your input,
And emotional support.
And emotional support. That's your input as in your presence, So sometimes you are there, but you are really absent. Their fees are paid, yes, they see your car, or if you have a car, but some of these fathers do not even, they just hang out more, and then it's a least supportive home. But when you are present, you don't have to be at home all the time. I'm sure people understand, but just some chores or experiences with your children, you should be the one to be there.
Parenting, intentional parenting.
Intentional parenting, very conscious.
Okay.
Yes.
I've heard some of the young mothers, let's say they have a baby, it's 1 month in, and most of them really complain of having partner support. Does that affect the mental space of the mother, and can it affect the child's mental space?
Another research conducted in the US, I think the past 2 years, they published that children whose fathers love their mothers have the best outcome in life. So you are, of course, the mother now, this, you know, after you give birth, that's why in most, I think in Tanzania, you either go to your parent or your mother will come to just nurture. Of course, your mother is also mothering you, you know, just to get you there. But having your husband or the father of the child there, there's less stress for the mother. You know, there's less, some women experience maternal depression, you know, after they give birth, but they just less stress and more support, you know, and the mother who is least stressed, you know, is a happier mother. If she's a happier mother, she would be more giving to the child, she'd be more loving, more present, more happy. So then, of course, the child will feel it. Sometimes children sense, you may not tell that you're going through something, they will sense it. You know, remember I said the mother's role is to nurture. So they can sense when you are tense. You remember how sometimes a baby would be crying and crying, and there's nothing wrong. It's just that the mother is not settled. But when the mother is settled and, you know, the child will also
relax.
That's why I've been talking about this, a warm home and a happy home, because supporting each other as well. Sometimes also husbands do not feel the support. They feel they are needed or wanted because only of what they give. It could be material, it could be money as well, you know. So also they feel they need to be shown acceptance and also love. And you know, it's not universal. And some people would say, well, like I'm cooking for them, and some people clean, you know. But everybody has their own, a relationship, a marriage is like a person. Each marriage is different. You know, if I may do something for your husband, and he may not appreciate, because that's not how you do, you and he are used to. You know, and every household has its own life, different. So people need, it depends if you appreciate this. For example, a woman who appreciates perfume, if you bring her flowers every day, they will not appreciate it because it's not perfume. And if they appreciate flowers, even if you bring the whole shop of perfume, they will not appreciate it. So same with a man. You know, but it's also good to communicate again, because sometimes you may be asking of something that, say, I like sports. Luckily, my husband also likes sports. So sometimes we go to watch, I enjoy watching at home if it's a match, but sometimes say, let's go somewhere and watch. If I was married to somebody who didn't understand, I'd be like, what is this woman doing? Like, stay home, you know? But because we understand each other, we both get it. You know, but sometimes also there's disagreements because of just a difference in personalities, a difference in upbringing. You know, for example, a man who is grown up in a household that was very strict, where parents are not close, like only one voice is heard, they would never get along with a wife who came from a home that was very joyful and everybody's voice is, you know, sometimes the father listened to other people, they would hardly last. It would be very difficult. Then there would always be clashing, because you come with your, this is how it's done, and they also say this is how it's done, and then it's very hard to get along. So then children now are caught in the middle between these two parents.
Is that why they say we marry our fathers And do men marry their mothers?
Most of the time, because also you are attracted by what you are used to, you know. For example, I come from a home, I was hardly beaten like with a stick. You know, my father slapped me twice, and I asked him later. My mother never beat me. I was never shouted at, not from my father or my mother. So I wouldn't understand a husband who shouts at me. I don't know, you know. But people who also, women who come from very strict homes could probably not get along with my husband, because it'd be like, which husband doesn't raise their voice? You have to show that you are home, you know. So that's why you marry, you are the one who is similar to your relative, to what you are used to. Of course, some people marry different, because again, if you are a conscious human being and you did not like the shouting at home, the beating, you can only change, because we want to break the cycle, as you're saying. So if you are conscious, you can say, I do not like that, I will not entertain it. And, you know, so I will not even partner with somebody with the same behaviors, because then it will be continuation. So then you can break it, you know, and yourself, if you come from a home that is like that, then you have to be the conscious one to not bring that to this new relationship.
In your years of experience, to what extent have you seen people breaking such cycles of not marrying their fathers and not marrying their mothers, who had bad parenting, not, I would rather say, unhealthy parenting practices?
Some, if you're conscious, some are the couples I'm seeing. I also do marital counseling. So for some, yes, but I see change when there's this consciousness. And sometimes people behave, they do not like how they behave. You know, when you are, for example, when your mother is abused, no one likes it. And they say, I will not do that. And then they mature and they become the abusers. So I've had patients who came, or clients who came and said, I'm becoming my father, I do not like it. Please, you know, what can I do? So I've done that, help them to navigate, not to become what they do not want to become. So you just have to be a conscious being, just constantly asking yourself, what am I doing? You know, what am I doing? And I'm not even saying those who came from healthy homes everything is perfect. So we all have to be conscious, because remember, through life we also learn. When you come from home, you experience things. Life teaches you. People can be bad to you, you know, at work, a neighbor, and you can become bitter, because not from your home, but because of what you experience. Maybe in school, maybe you were bullied, you know, but if you are conscious, then you just say, I refuse to behave like that. If you are not conscious, you will bring that into your behavior and into your relationships.
Yeah. And I think being cautious, someone has to sit back and reflect from time to time and observe their behaviors and look at the pattern.
You have to become introspective, but also, Margaret, you have to also be able to get feedback. Because we cannot all know everything about ourselves. You know, it's like the blind spot in a car. Sometimes you have to turn back because you can't see. So sometimes it takes somebody else to tell you, Maria Grace, are you aware that you do this? You know, are you aware you do? And you're like, what? I didn't know that. So, but if you are not receptive, some people are not receptive, they become very defensive when they get feedback, then you will not learn. And you know, until you die, you always learn.
How do we deal with a defensive partner or a defensive parent?
I always encourage couples to talk, communicate when not in an disagreement, I mean. When you are having a disagreement and you want to bring this into, it will be like, yeah, like accusatory. And you always do this, and you always do that, you know. But when you are calm, the day when you are so happy, relaxed, is where you say, you know, whatever you call them, babe, sweetheart, mpenzi, whatever. I need to talk to you about something that's been making me sad. Make it about how you feel. Less accusatory. You do this, I don't like it. They will be defensive. But if you say, we need to talk. I am sad or unhappy or concerned about this thing you've been doing nowadays. I'm not sure you are aware of it, but it makes me feel worried, concerned, afraid. They'll be more likely to listen.
How is it that some people are wired not to sleep over it? They want to talk it there and then. Like, it has happened now. No, we can't wait. Let's talk it right now.
So one is anxiety. Some people are anxious people. If we don't talk about it now, you will run away. If you don't talk about this now, and also remember, also, this is the thing, I'm a Christian, so I always joke that I will have to discuss with Jesus about this, you know, don't sleep over this, you know, don't go to bed angry.
Yes, don't go to bed angry.
But if you insist on talking when you are angry, you will say some things in the heat of the moment that even if it's your partner who did the mistake, you will end up apologizing because you said some things that were mean because you were angry. So I always encourage people, and even parents, even if it's your child who did something or your partner, they are not going anywhere unless they are traveling, and if they travel and they are not coming back. But if this person is here, where is the rush? Rationalize, calm down. It may take a day or 2 or 3, and then you are in a good space to talk about the thing they did, not of how they look, because when you're angry, look at you, and your hair is like that, and then you say, oh, tomorrow, sorry, I didn't mean anything about your hair, but it's true. Maybe they're bald, maybe your husband is bald, and you're angry, say, look at your bald head, and then it's like, even if you apologize, they are still bald. You know, so I always tell people, calm down, calm down. And then you will say, we need to talk. Can we talk? I'm concerned. And make it about how you feel. And you feel worried, concerned, and this because of this has been happening. And maybe they're aware, or maybe they're not. They may be aware, and then they say, I know, and I've been doing that purposefully, maybe because you did that and you are like, what did I do, you know? Or maybe they don't know they've been doing that, but at least it's a chance to communicate. But you know, when you bring something to your partner, also be willing to hear about yourself, because they will also tell you some things that are not nice that you may have been doing as well.
Wow, that's really powerful. As you are talking about it, you gave examples of how to handle that situation in relationships. It crossed my mind how we handle it with kids. You find that you react there and then you find some parents bully their kids literally. Like, look at your head, you have a very big head. Like, they would just say things that would
mean.
Yeah,
rude.
That are so mean. And the poor child doesn't know what exactly is the problem or the mistake.
Yes, not only that, Margaret, but there's no more painful feeling or abuse than when it comes from the person who is supposed to love you the most. If people abuse you in the street, you're like, I don't know you, I don't care. But if it's your mother saying that, it hurts. Like, this person may never heal, and they will believe it. You know, if it's a person and then they tell you, like, your head is like this, and then your mother says, oh no, you are like this, and did you know it? Then it's like, you know, but if the person who gave birth to me, is supposed to love me, tells me that, it must be true. You know, and then you wonder, see, everybody who is supposed to be the head, how can they be the head? They have been shown and told that they're supposed to be the tail.
Yes.
So, and then it will be like, oh, my friends' children are like this, and they can talk in front of people. They are so self-assured. Yes, because they were planted like that. They were raised like that. But you have demeaned your children, make them not be able to talk to you. How can they lead? So your children will always be followers. They will hardly be leaders.
It's hard to say that how I understand this is your children are a reflection of you. So if you're complaining your children are this way, they're reflecting what you planted in them.
Yes.
So you're literally reaping what you sow.
Yeah. Just like when some mother call their children names, Ngedere wewe. Sasa, who is Mama Ngedere? I even tell partners, husband and wife, if you call your husband stupid, well, who married the stupid one?
Yeah. That's a good question.
So it actually reflects of like you are the one. So you mothered that you called your child stupid, you mothered the stupid person and raised them. So who are you then?
You also talked about the role of the father in raising a child and the role of the mother in parenting. And I am thinking, let's say I'm a single mother now. How do I get a father figure so that they can come and play with my kid, so that my kid can stimulate that part of their brain that needs to be stimulated?
Not necessarily play, but just be around male influence. And if it's a single father, also your children getting that female influence, the warmth. And so it could be the grandmother, it could be the aunt, and it could be the uncle. Hopefully nowadays also with a lot of care with uncles, because some people do some things to children, So it could be you go somewhere and they observe, to your relatives, to your family. Some people, it could be a teacher. They could learn some things about being male and the male presence, positive, male, and also about being female and the female presence, So, but what I'm saying for these single parents, and it could be a mother or a father, do the best that you can, to the best of your ability. Encourage, if you have a family, expose your children to these family events where they observe how fathers are, how mothers are. They don't have to go and live there, but also be a conscious parent, How is my child behaving? Communicate with them. You will learn. It's most helpful to be a conscious, positive parent, even if you are one, rather than be two parents who are absent. But also for these parents, I would tell them not to become permissive because, feeling the guilt of like, oh, I'm only one, so I'll say yes to everything. Don't do that. You will actually tire yourself and you'll not help your children. So if you're a mother, be a good mother, be the best mother they could ever have, meaning you set the limits, And also for the fathers now, so in most homes, actually, the fathers are also the disciplinarians. And I always tell my brothers and my male colleagues, and now I'll tell your male listeners, some days let your wife be the disciplinarian. When you play good cop, bad cop. If you are the only one who constantly giving the punishments and giving the consequences, then they will associate you with most of the negativity.
Oh, yeah.
And then when men mature, even these absent men, then they become, old men, and they're like, my children don't want to be close with me. Closeness is built from childhood. It doesn't just happen.
Again, the circle
you
repeats.
can force it. Yes, you can force it, So whatever you plant is what. So some days, if you are there are those women who like wait until your father comes home because now he's a bad cop. So the father means negativity. You are threatening your child. They're not waiting for the father with excitement. It's like, uh-oh, it's like the father is coming, you know. And then the father comes, the wife reports, and the father takes out punishment every time.
In African context, you see that a lot.
But I always tell, for example, I also give consequences to my children, not only my husband, because I'm also helping him, you know. But also I tell my brothers, if my wifey always tells you, oh, so-and-so did this, some days ask them, oh, so what did you do?
Yes.
Because you are the mother also, you are also the parent, what did you do? So why should I be the only one always giving the punishment? Some days you should be listening to, oh, and then I told them, you can't do this because of this. You're like, okay, team, you know, we're a team. So today you give the consequences, some days I get the consequences. So it balances out. And the fathers also be conscious. Some days you are the one to take them to the beach. Some days you are the one to give them positive experiences. So they associate positivity with you as well, you know. And I'm telling you, they will appreciate it when they grow up.
And they create a bond with their fathers.
This is what I'm talking about.
Let's say there is a father somewhere who has abandoned his family and would like to get back to his family, and maybe doesn't know if they have already detached from their children. Let's say their children is 7, is 8, is 3, is 4. How do they know that now I can go back and attach with my children and this is where to start?
So I would say it's never too late. You know, although now I've seen a few, maybe 2 or 3 clients whose father came like in their 50s, and suddenly the father who abandoned them comes back. And this child, there's a lot of distrust because you say, now they are old, they need me to take care of them because they are old. They don't really want me, you know. But it's never too late to go back. Whether they are 3, they are 4, they are 5. So it may be they physically detached, because you can be far but still attached to your children's lives. You can call, you can write, you can still try to engage your children. But some are physically far and also disengaged. So of course, it may be, I think I would want them to examine why they disengaged. Was there violence? Was there danger? Were they themselves cause or concern for the family? Maybe the family ran away from them, or maybe they went away. So if you've solved that, because if you are posing danger, if they're running away from you, they can't accept you back because they're afraid. But if there's no physical danger, you know, or even emotional danger, then I would just encourage going back. And in Africa, there's some traditions where you can engage other people. We have this Ubuntu, you know. Yes. You can engage your extended family, not even a therapist, you know. Extended family, or sometimes some people go to local government, social worker, you know. Somebody has to mediate, you know, especially when there's tension. If there's no tension and you are confident to just go and knock and start and saying, I'm back, or can we talk, you know. But I think that's how, probably start with the mother, start with other adults who can, you know, support, to listen, to just mediate. Because there will be a lot of anger on the other side, pain and hurt on the children's side, who must feel abandoned. People think children do not think. They think very much. They may not talk, but they are thinking and they are filling the blanks with imaginary things. Some of them real, some of them not. So they will think, you don't want us, you don't love us, you abandoned us. So having a mediator would help, you know, just to ease the questions from each side. But if they don't need a mediator and the one is comfortable, then I would encourage them to welcome questions from the one who were abandoned. They will have a lot of questions. What happened? Why did you do this? But I would say probably never too late to go back.
Focusing on children's behavior, at what point do we tell that now we need an intervention on this particular behavior? And at what point do we know that that behavior is now a result of mental health issue, specifically on children?
Children behave when they are with, toddlers, other than baby, but when you are toddlers, you are learning to walk and you walk and start talking. There are some behaviors that are filled with a lot of curiosity, wanting to learn about the world, about life, about things around them, wanting to touch things and pull things and eat and taste things, And if you are, some parents are like, acha, acha, acha. I always tell parents, that's why most of us are not very creative.
Oh yeah.
Because we are used to hearing, stop it, stop, don't touch that, don't touch. But children are first very curious beings. They're just experiencing everything for the first time. Mm-hmm. And then after curiosity, then they have that talkative age where sometimes they wish to tell your child, please, can you
stop talking?
Yes, for a minute. They have a lot of questions, Again, curiosity, but now voicing the curiosity. Mama, what is that? Baba, what is that? And talking and sharing and this, but they are soaking everything in, And then sometimes there's silence, they're still soaking in. But then if that's why I'm talking about conscious parenting. So you will notice your child behaving in a way that's not normal for them, because every child is different. For example, if your child is not curious, this is a toddler age, they don't touch anything, then you will what, my child, okay, when parents tell them, don't do that, I always joke, like, you are telling them to sit down, but if they really sit, you rush them to the hospital. You say something is wrong, So your child, if they are not curious, maybe to start with, they are not curious at all, I would still encourage you to go to the doctor. And the doctor would probably notice that something is wrong, because there are normal milestones. And then there's movement, physically, maybe they can't move something. But also how they talk, if they talk, then how they behave. Maybe some people beat other people. Then it could be, especially children who cannot talk, vocalize, they get to be very frustrated. So they will lash out, but it could also be somebody is also hitting them. Okay. So sometimes they can tell you. So you will just see, firstly, misbehaving out of character for them, but also out of character for their age. So this is how one can tell my child is behaving abnormally. And that's why earlier I mentioned when they are teenagers or adolescents, how they like solitude, to be by themselves or with their friends, And then if they are always close to you, you are like, my child is behaving, because normally you may like it, but this is not normal. Normally it's like, this is the age when they don't want, they don't prefer your company. Yeah. Most parents actually complain at this age, they don't want to hang with me anymore, because their friends are more interesting. So just out of character for them and out of character for their age group. So I would say that is maybe an abnormality, behavior-wise.
So we also spoke about what is the threshold of helping these children's behavior from a parenting angle. Now let's say they have turned into teenagers and their behaviors are already shaped from what they saw in their families or maybe in extended families or their guardians and all. How do we change these children to change their narrative?
So until 25, they are still forming. They're still maturing, behavior-wise, they're thinking. So adolescence is also hard on children, very hard. Their bodies are changing, their thinking is changing, they are very self-conscious about their body, because this is when you will become whoever adult you will become. And you've already seen adults who are, maybe a woman, like dark-skinned women are told this, tall women are told that. Children are soaking these things, they're listening.
All the stereotypes.
The stereotypes. So now this is the age where, when I'm too short, when will I become tall, when will I, you know, they're just all these things, and all the changes and the emotional, you know, the parent job is to support, to be understanding, to give them a lot of grace, kuwahurumia pia, umeelewa. Sometimes parents are very also not conscious of this, a span of like, it could be sometimes 10 years. Your child is constantly evolving, you know. But the parents maybe, I don't know what's wrong with this one. They forget that this is the age they are still maturing. They need you. They need your support, you know. So becoming less judgmental, more available, asking questions, and sometimes just offering, you know, I'm here. Tell me, ask me. This is the age when they really need support. And sometimes for us as well, by us I mean the community around, we should also be supportive of. Sometimes you see children misbehaving, you know, by children I mean, but adolescents, you know. You can also positively call them out sometimes. I know your listeners will say, but parents say, don't tell my children, or don't do this. But if you give feedback in a positive way, they will listen. They will listen. So we should all be, you know, supportive, because it takes a village. So we are the village.
Wow. Let's say a teenager has been physically detached from their parents from the age of 2. Attending nursery school. You leave early in the morning, you come back in the afternoon, your mom is at work, and then that means you miss all the nurturing from your mother and your father, because you started school early. Now you're a teenager, and it's an individualistic society, really, in the towns that we live in. That power of community is not as it used to be, where your uncle will be there, your auntie will be there. And these children are maybe listening to this podcast, they're teenagers, and they would like to learn tactics of how to get out of that situation of having physically unavailable parents, because they had to start being responsible. I call going to school being responsible. Being responsible at a very young age. Yeah, what should they do?
But first, when I say responsiveness, I do not mean parents should be there 24 hours, you know. So, for example, our African way, which is very good, how we Africans carry our up to 1 year, the women, we carry our babies on our back. And everything we do, they also experience. You'll see the mother in the village, if they go to fetch, even if they're digging the farm, the baby's on the back. Wow. So whatever you see, they also see, the experience, but it's just also very warm, like the assurance. The mother is always there. They can hear your heartbeat all the time. But after 1, usually they start walking. So even in the village, you'll see the mother will untie and let the baby walk. And if they need to leave, then they'll put the baby again on the back. So there's a time when the baby will wander off, you know. It's okay, but in your free time, now first I'm talking to the parents, evenings, weekends, you know. Now, I don't know about boarding school. I'm not a big fan of that. I didn't put my children to boarding school. I didn't go to one either. So, but I believe parents always say, well, I'm too busy. And I always say, as long as in the evening, I see my child and I see them asleep and they go and come home, I am there. Because then each day you can tell there's something wrong with my child. And then weekends are there. You know, So sometimes it's not about the quantity of time you spend together, but about the quality of time. What do you do when you are together? Are you present? Do you know your children? Do you know their friends? Why are they friends to that one and not this one? You know, I remember when my daughter was, I think 14, then her birthday, usually would have this only home celebration, eating cake and singing, and it would be a few neighbors, her friends. But this year, there's this boy, I think he was maybe 17, and I'd never seen him, came, you know, and happy birthday. And so later, I asked my, oh, you know, who's that boy? Oh, he lives in that house, Mama, you know, that house. And I'm like, okay. So then the next day, I asked her, so what do you think about, you know, why? Because I then noticed he was riding a bicycle close to our house. I started noticing him. And he said, Mama, you know, he's just a neighbor. So I asked her, why do you think nowadays he's more visible around our house? And she's like, I don't know, he's just my friend. So I told her, I think, do you want to hear my opinion? I have an idea. And she's like, why? I said, well, you have changed. Because we had lived that house, I think, 10 years. You know? We moved when she, so I said, you know, the only thing that has changed is you. Then she was like, oh. But I think if I didn't say that, because sometimes you have to help them. You're an adult, you've been here before, you've seen things. You know, so this is how, it's not every day like, sit down, boys are like this. So then you are teaching her like, okay, be aware. Now your body is different. You look like a young woman, you are just 14, you know, but you're starting to show some, you know, changes. So then people are attracted. So I'm just giving her the tools for her to navigate by herself,
that's
you know.
really good.
But then if it's, I think it's harder on the children to come and connect with the parents, because the parent is the adult, and the adult may be unresponsive, defensive, not want to listen, you know. So sometimes the adult may not be welcoming of this adolescent who want to come and talk with them. However, when there is safety, because sometimes it's dangerous, like, don't talk to me, you know. But if the parent is just, maybe doesn't have the skills, some parents also don't have the skills to communicate, you know, then the child can also tell if it's the father or mama, can I talk to you? So I'm curious about 1, 2, 3, you know, I experienced that. Sometimes parents are not very receptive. They may not know how to respond. Nowadays, children sometimes know more than the parents because of the schooling curriculum is different. For example, about HIV, we didn't grow up with, you know, but our children learn now from standard 2, I think, about don't using sharp tools, about safety, so, and they get more information the more they grow, and the parents may not know as much. So some parents also are afraid because they feel ashamed, like, if my child knows more, what will I tell them?
Okay, so Prof, to summarize on this whole discussion and the concept of mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka, the child of a snake is a snake, as literally translated in that particular research. What should one take as a takeaway from you as a guidance?
What I've said consistently, for parents and adults to be conscious of how they parent, and also to conduct introspection on themselves, on the adversities they have gone through as children and what they bring to their own children. And also to think whether they are normalizing violence on their children. So someone has to break that cycle of violence, and hopefully it's these parents now.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Karibu.
This was a very insightful discussion.
Asante. I'm happy to share my experience.